Beasts. Let's do this. What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good buddy over there, Brian Corsair, talk about all of your favorite comic book adaptations. Brian, we get to talk about Transformers today.
Yes, finally! Finally, and not as a tangent.
Yes.
It's something I'm excited and positive things to say about.
Yes. Brian and I, we started doing YouTube videos when we were talking about like the Netflix Transformers series, and we're really big fans of that. This is the first time we've ever been able to talk about a live action Transformers movie since we started this channel. So, Brian, you said that you are excited and you have positive things to say. So, why are you excited about Transformers: Rise of the Beasts?
Well, it's been a while. So we got Bumblebee in 2018 or 2019. I believe it was late 2018.
Yeah.
It was December. So I'm not even sure I even saw it in the theater, to believe it or not. That's how let down I was by the last night. I'm a staunch defender of the few positives you can glean from the live action Transformers movies, except for the last night. Oh. I can't even be an apologist for that. I just can't stand it.
Sure.
Easily my least favorite. I don't, like I said, I have to add one more thing. I've seen every one of the Transformers movies in the giant IMAX screen in Lincoln Center. It is the largest screen in North America. That's where I actually just went recently with Danny to see RRR on that huge mega screen. So again, last night was like a real downer for me. I think I completely missed Bumblebee in the theater because it was that much, it was that bad to me.
Wow.
But that movie kind of restored my faith a little bit, and it's just been a while, and I'm just itching for something good. I'm also really excited about Earthspark too. I think it's a pretty good kid show. It's definitely a kid show, but there's enough in there that I'm like holy shit, this is like a cool take on this, and I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to more episodes whenever they come out. So I'm just excited in general. I mean, I spend so much goddamn money in these things. I just want people to be excited. My son's in like a Transformers phase right now. Like that's all he wants for Christmas. He wants Legos and Transformers for Christmas. That's it.
Nice. Me too.
He's even started. He even has his own shelves now, just like his dear old dad here. So I'm just happy to be talking about this. I thought the trailer was pretty good. It's interesting. A lot of this information kind of leaked a while ago, so we kind of knew the cast was, confirmed it. And yeah.
Well, it's funny, right? Because we do all these videos where we talk about, MCU shows and Star Wars Disney Plus shows, and you just have thousands of dollars worth of Transformers toys right behind you. And
I do have a couple $100 worth of Marvel toys on a shelf behind my camera over here, but
okay. Yeah, well, we are clearly Transformers fans, and you even more so than me. But I love Transformers very much too. And that's kind of how our friendship started, was our love of Transformers. And so we haven't had this opportunity to talk about the live action movies. I personally didn't see The Last Night in theaters. I didn't like Age of Extinction. I thought Dark of the Moon was actually pretty good.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. And then the first movie has its merits as well. The second one is pretty rough. So yes, I think we should start talking about this one. Just for you guys who are checking out a video, by the way, we're talking about the Transformers Rise of the Beast trailer, which dropped. And then we're also talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer. That'll be after this. There was also like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, but we're not going to get into that. They dropped a shit ton of trailers this week because of Brazilian Comic-Con, of all things.
Yeah, CCXP. Kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting it, didn't even know about it, and then I randomly heard that the Transformers trailer was coming yesterday. So, we were going to take a week off, but no, now I can't.
Exactly. Yeah, no week off for us. So this movie, man, they're starting to get the Transformers right. Because when I think of Transformers, I think of 1994 Brooklyn. Being facetious. The show, because the movie, I looked up the stuff on Wikipedia, and they say it takes place in 1994 in Brooklyn.
I didn't hear the Brooklyn part. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's Brooklyn / Peru, because
yes, I heard the Peru part.
Yeah, these movies. Here's the thing, right? This seems like it is a break from the Bay formula in some regards, at least visually. But then it also, if you look at the description, it's kind of like, oh, this is sounding a little bayish right here.
Yes, I agree.
Like, for instance, here's the description on Wikipedia. A pair of archaeologists from Brooklyn come into conflict with three Transformer factions, Maximals, Predacons, and Terracons. So when you think archaeologists from Brooklyn, that sounds kind of weird just to begin with. Then Anthony Ramos, who's the main character, he's Noah. He's an ex-military electronics expert. So we always have that sort of military aspect to these Transformers movies. I feel like they can't make a live-action Transformers movie without some sort of military character involved. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a long-standing staple of the various Transformers media. There's always military somewhere involved, so I'm not surprised here. I do feel like this movie is going to have less of a focus on humans than the past ones, and maybe that's one of the reasons I'm most excited.
Yeah,
we've only really heard about the two cast members, Noah and Elena, Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback, and that's kind of it. There was always a much larger human cast announced alongside all the robots. And I feel like I have a press release here announcing a bunch of voice actors for robots, but there's still no other human cast announced, with the exception of there's one character named Reek, Reek, just like Game of Thrones.
right.
But I'm not sure if that's a robot or a human. It's played by a rapper actor from the Netflix show Mo. That's all I know about it. So
Okay.
again, though, but like you think of the first movie, you know, they announced Shia LaBeouf, they announced Megan Fox, they announced oh my God, why can't I think of Agent Seymour's name?
John Turturro.
Yeah, well, like they're Josh Jamal,
Tyrese.
Yeah, there was a bunch of other actors in that movie. So far, when we knew about all of them, and I think that was the case for every other movie. And it seems so far that maybe we'll finally get more of a focus on robots, which is what I've been wanting the entire time.
You and me both, my man. You and me both. And so let's just dive into that voice cast, shall we? So we have the man himself, Peter Cullen, back as Optimus Prime.
One and only.
And you'd be excited about that. Then we have Ron Perlman, who is Optimus Primal. Now, Brian, Ron Perlman has been a Transformer in the past, right?
Yes, he actually voiced Optimus Primal in the Machinima Combiner Wars series.
Okay, yeah. So he's back as a character once again. Peter Dinklage, we were just talking about this the other day. He's playing Scourge. Now, for those of you that like Transformers like me and Brian, you'll know that Scourge is like one of the minions of Unicron.
One of the Heralds of Unicron.
Heralds of Unicron. Thank you. Yeah. He is. Do you remember which Decepticon gets turned into him?
Oh man, this is always a debate. So everyone always seems to think, because the ones that were transformed into Cyclonus and Scourge were Thundercracker, Skywarp, and then the three Insecticons: Bombshell, Kickback, Shrapnel. Everyone wants to think. Everyone thinks the Seekers are cooler, so they want Cyclonus to be one and Scourge to be the other. So it's very clear that Thundercracker is Cyclonus, but it's more apparent to me that Bombshell ends up being Scourge. From the Insecticons, and I hate saying that because Skywarp's my favorite Seeker.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, at least you're being honest, you're not in denial about it, so that's cool. Scourge has a couple of lines in that Transformers the animated movie. There's this great part where Galvatron says to Unicron, Cybertron and all of its moons belong to me. And then Unicron starts to torture him, and then Scourge says, but we belong to him. And I like that.
That was a pretty good impression, too.
Thank you so much. If I had a little bit more time, I could do a better Galvatron too, because you got to get that Leonard Nimoy effect. But Scourge was featured a lot in season 3 of the Transformers cartoon. He is a character that I'm pretty familiar with. He's one of those weird Transformers that has a beard. I think though in this version, in Rise of the Beasts, he's going to be nothing like that, besides maybe just being a minion of Unicron.
Yeah. There's been a couple other uses of the name Scourge in Transformers. I think probably most prominently was the 2001 Robots in the Sky series, where he was a kind of a black repaint of Optimus Prime. Fuck, where is it? Oh, he's on my shelf. I can't reach him. Yeah, he's a black repaint of black and teal repaint of the G2 laser Optimus Prime. Scourge was also used in, is it in Prime? Was he like a beast-like character, or am I thinking of somebody else? Anyway, the name has been repurposed several times, which is the case for many Transformer names, and we especially know that happens a lot in the movies. They kind of take names and just use them, and they don't always match up with what the original character was. To which even infuriates my son.
Oh wow! Okay, that's awesome. We're getting a deep dive into Brandon's psyche today too.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm always promoting other YouTube channels that get way more views than ours, but we always refer to this guy as the Irish guy. But what's his name now?
Chris McFeely.
Chris McFeely. He's so good. His channel is so awesome. The basics on Transformers, and I'm pretty sure he has a video on Scourge too.
Yes.
Okay. So some things of note. So he's voiced by Peter Dinklage. And Peter Dinklage, he's a little person, right? And he's obviously famous for being Tyrion on Game of Thrones. He has a very deep voice, though, and I think that his voice would work well for a Decepticon type character.
Yes. This character is also it is kind of like a truck alt mode. I'm slightly skeptical of Peter Dinklage as a voice actor. One of my other biggest hobbies is the video game Destiny. And in the original Destiny, he was like a supporting character. He's like a little ghost that follows you around and does all kinds of things. And his performance there was kind of lackluster.
Yeah.
Partly misses it because it was kind of campy and funny, but it was really phoned in. It's kind of like the general consensus on it. So fantastic actor. And what I've seen him in live action, questionable about how he'll be as a voice actor. I hope it's better than it was as that Doge character in Destiny.
Yeah, it's so weird, right? Because they are still kind of announcing the voice cast now, even though we see this trailer and it's this movie that looks like it's completed. It's so weird how late in the game voice acting gets brought in, even though it's so important in things like this.
Yeah, I think a lot has to do with the fact that this movie was pushed back a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that was because it wasn't the tests, the original footage or the test footage wasn't well received, or there was just complications from the pandemic, because that's essentially when it was filming.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie got pushed back by a year. I also remember too a lot of the original marketing posts mentions 5 factions. They mentioned Autobots, Decepticons, Maximals, Predacons, and Terrorcons. We kind of slimmed that down to Autobots, Maximals, Terrorcons here.
Yeah.
And I think basically I'm saying is a lot of things might have changed along the way in that past year delay.
Okay. Well, I want to address that very fact. That's a big talking point for today. Before we get to that, let's just kind of go through the cast a little bit more, the voice actor cast. But I want to talk about that specific point. So the next person I have here is Pete Davidson, who's playing Mirage, and they have him listed as an Autobot spy who turns into a Porsche. Now, you are kind of upset about Mirage's alt mode, aren't you?
Yes, I'm very upset. The Porsche is jazz. It's got to be jazz to me.
Right.
And it's like the exact model that Jazz was pretty much too. So it's going to bother me. I mean, and the original Mirage was like a Formula One car. I know that doesn't really work well for driving around Brooklyn or Peru in the skies. So, and then also his power set is kind of more Hound's thing, because Hound was one that produced holograms, and Mirage just kind of like turned himself invisible, sort of.
Right.
Also, I feel like Mirage here is going to be like the human connection character, that the role that Bumblebee normally fills in these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a weird choice to be Mirage, because Mirage was like this rich, aristocratic character in G1. Like not aristocratic. I mean, he was like a rich guy. He was like a rich white guy. Like he went on hunting trips. He almost kind of like joined the Decepticons at some point, or thought about it. And it just doesn't seem like the relatable human character to me. So this is one of those instances where it's like attaching a name
Yeah.
A notable name to just something, just maybe for copyright purposes or whatever.
Yeah.
At least they get the color schemes kind of similar because he's kind of white and blue.
Yeah.
That kind of works. So it's yet to be seen. And then on top of the whole characterization from the G1 version, I picture Pete Davidson as kind of like a stonery kind of guy, or slacker, and I don't see that melding well with that initial character. So I'm curious. I hope that slacker stoner kind of thing doesn't come into play.
Yeah.
In his take here, but we'll have to see.
Do you think that Mirage is going to get with RC because like Pete Davidson just gets with every famous woman?
Maybe. I mean, RC has to be a famous female Transformer. Is one of the only ones that we've seen.
Right.
In movies. I mean, there are plenty, obviously, but in movie wise, like she's pretty much it.
Right. Well, I want to talk about Bumblebee and the Bumblebee movie too. There's a whole bunch of things I keep putting pins in. I just want to get through this, but yeah, that's another one I want to get to too. Then we have speaking of RC, we have Liza Koshy, who I looked her up and like it just said that she was essentially like a YouTuber, that she has like 2 YouTube channels and they've gotten like billions of views. I'm not very familiar with her, but she's the voice of RC. RC's alt mode is a Ducati motorcycle, so. We've seen RC before in Revenge of the Fallen, but she was like 3 bikes or something.
Yeah, so the movie made it seem like it was like a 1 personality thing, but 3 bodies.
Yeah.
The comics made it seem otherwise, which are actually pretty good. The tie-in comics for that.
Agreed. John Barber, right?
Yeah, and so that's up for debate, but yeah, so we have seen her before, and she was a motorcycle in that as well.
Okay. Well, we're making our way through there. We got Michelle Yeoh as Air Razor. I actually think that's pretty inspired casting. Yeah. Cheetor, they did not announce who's the voice actor for that, which makes me wonder, is Cheetor just going to be one of those characters where you see them, but they don't necessarily have any lines,
Yeah, I feel like they're going to be a background character. Cheetor's going to be a background character. It's not really going to say very much. So yes, unfortunately.
Cristo Fernandez, he's Wheeljack. And you were saying before that you were curious what kind of accent Wheeljack was going to have because it fluctuates.
So Cristo Fernandez is probably most well known for playing Danny Rojas in Ted Lasso, which is a show I have not watched.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Yeah.
Wheeljack is typically some kind of race car. It's like a Lancia Stratos Turbo. It's like a really fancy looking race car, like Formula One race car sort of thing.
Sure.
Typically he's white. Mostly with some red and green accents. Here he's a VW van.
right.
It looks kind of old and rusty, and we don't really get too good of a look at him here. We see him in his alt mode. We see him the back of him walking. It appears he does sort of have his little wings that he's kind of known for. And then we have this actor who's a Spanish actor. I think he's a Mexican actor. And I'm curious to see what kind of, I mean, the Michael Bay movies are kind of well known for horribly stereotyping Transformers voices as to like horrible, ethnic stereotypes.
Right.
And I hope this does better than that. And it's just interesting to me that they cast someone like that for Wheeljack, who's I see he's kind of like an older, maybe not wiser necessarily, but an inventor sort of guy. Like, so I kind of picture him generally as an older character, older sounding character.
Yeah.
But his voice characterization over the past decade or so has been very, very different.
Okay.
First you go back to Transformers Prime. He was kind of a different character altogether. He was a wrecker. He was just very action oriented, kind of badass. Didn't really have the inventor aspect to it, but sounded very different than the original G1 Wheeljack.
Right.
Then you have Cyberverse, which is again the inventor, but he has a very gruff sounding voice, but he's very excitable, energetic. It's still kind of in line with G1. What else did I have after that? The Siege version, very similar to G1 also. Then the Earthspark version, He kind of sounds like a cowboy. Still an inventor, but sounds like a
What?
cowboy, and it's kind of a little strange.
Okay.
And then I don't know if this is
Go
another
ahead.
one of those things where it's different in the movie than it was in the comic and the toy line. So in Dark of the Moon, the character of Q was this kind of blue one that kind of looked like Albert Einstein, sort of.
Yeah.
It had hair and looked really weird.
Agreed.
The toy was named Wheeljack, and in the comic he was Wheeljack.
Right.
The movie he was only referred to as Q.
Q.
So
yeah.
Again, all these very different characterizations for this character, and I'm very curious to hear what a young Mexican actor's take on it.
Yeah. Well, even that Q version of Wheeljack, if that even is him in the movie, he even has a weird accent too. He kind of, it sounds like that scientist Duck from like DuckTales and like from like the Disney movies.
Yeah.
That's what Q kind of sounds like. That actor, I'm really glad that you point out who he is, because I did watch the first season of Ted Lasso and a little bit of the second. He's good. Cristo Fernandez. He actually was in the post-credit scene of No Way Home. He's the bartender that serves Eddie Brock a drink and like.
No way.
Yeah. So
Nice.
So you have seen him in one thing. I'm very curious as to how they're going to show Wheeljack too. Often, like the characters' alt modes kind of influence their personality in these movies. Like Hot Rod was like a French car or something, right? Or like and so he had like a French accent. That's how it is in the Michael Bay movies. I don't know if like because he's a Volkswagen, will he kind of have some kind of weird German accent? Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But John DiMaggio, you must be happy about that.
Yes, Bender, kill all humans.
Yes, he's playing Stratosphere.
I'm going to make my own Transformers movie with blackjack and hookers. He's playing Stratosphere. Stratosphere is a very obscure character, and actually one of my favorite toys. I do have them in storage. I was considering breaking them out to show in this video, but I decided not to. After I read that he suffers from gold plastic syndrome, which gold plastic syndrome is basically when they use gold plastic, and gold plastic for some reason disintegrates very easily after over time.
Yeah.
So it's very possible I'll take him out, try to transform him, and he may just collapse.
Oh no. That'll be kind of like Ironhide in Dark of the Moon.
Yeah, right? That's exactly how it would look. Yeah, so I'm very afraid of that. But he's a very cool looking, kind of like cargo jet kind of dude. He was only really in a comic book, not even an IDW comic book. It was a Titan comic book tie-in from the movies, and he was in the Dark of the Moon video game. That's kind of it. He was like a toy-only character for the most part.
Yeah. I wonder, because John DiMaggio is kind of a noteworthy voice actor. I'm assuming that he's going to be some sort of transport for them because he's a cargo plane. I'm assuming that he's going to carry some of the smaller Autobots around.
Or they could just be using the name for some random thing. Stratosphere, though, you have to imagine it's got something to do with flight or space, something to do with that. So, who knows?
Yeah. So we're almost out of this casting part, and then we can actually speculate some stuff. David Sobolov plays Rhinox and Battletrap. So why excited about the David Sobolov? What's up with him?
He is a legacy actor, and he was first of all, he was Blitzwing in the Bumblebee movie.
Oh, okay.
He was Shockwave in the Cyberverse cartoon, and most importantly, he was Depth Charge in Beast Wars.
Oh, that's why you're excited. Okay, nice. So just if by chance you guys are watching our channel and you kind of know a little bit about Transformers, or you don't know that much, and you can tell me and Brian are like fanboying like crazy over here. We are big fans of the Beast Wars cartoon, which is obviously a big part of this upcoming movie. And there's a character that they introduce towards the end of the show named Depth Charge. And that's like one of your favorite Transformers, like ever, right?
Yeah, Depth Charge is pretty awesome. Depth Charge was like one of my favorite things and reasons to watch the show. I was initially very skeptical of Beast Wars. I was a kind of like a truck nut monkey camp kind of person originally, but I'm not anymore. I'm an equal opportunity Optimus fan. So
oh man,
I'm getting all my nerd out here. Like this is like full Transformers nerd flag flying here.
Our true colors are showing, man. Just like let the girdle off and like unbutton the pants, just like truck nut monkey. Oh man, that's fantastic. I love it. Um, so then the last one, and then we can finally fucking start speculating about this movie. I'm sorry, Michaela J. Rodriguez is Nightbird, and
Yes.
that's the fucking ninja from the G1 cartoon, right?
Yes, Nightbird was in one episode. It was like a ninja. It wasn't exactly a Decepticon, but we don't get a clear shot of the character in the trailer. There are in that battle scene. If you freeze frame it like a maniac, like I did, you can kind of make out some other characters. Um, I assume I think I saw it's like a black and purpley kind of flying character. Um, the G1 version was a car. I don't think they're going to take too many cues from that version of the character. I don't think it even speaks, to be honest. I think it was like a drone or something. So again, this is another instance of taking a name from the lore and just slapping it on whatever character they decided to create. Same thing with Battle Trap there, what we just mentioned. Battle Trap is was a Duocon. So basically two alt modes that combine into one robot figure. So Battle Trap was a Jeep and a helicopter that formed one robot.
Okay.
In a very basic kind of way. And then also we mentioned David Sobolov is also going to be Rhinox. I feel like Rhinox is going to have a backseat kind of role in this movie as well. Based on the fact that we have Ron Perlman and Michelle Yeoh as Primal and Air those are very recognizable names, and the other ones are not, and we don't even know who Cheetor is. So I feel like they're and we barely even see Rhinox too. We see him one shot of him as a rhino and maybe a silhouette of his robot mode in one of those battle scenes.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings us to the speculation part, right? Because as I put in the notes, because I definitely still want to talk about the Bumblebee Mirage thing too that you mentioned, but as far as like what are they going to do with all the different factions? That was the thing that I wanted to talk about. You said there was going to be 5 factions at one point. Now there's 3. I feel like based on what I read on the Wikipedia and based on the dialogue from the trailer, to me it seems like this is going to be similar in story to the Kingdom Netflix series, where you have like the G1 characters interacting with the Beast War counterparts. But in this situation, instead of the G1 characters going back to like prehistoric Earth, it's just that the G1 characters are on Earth as a direct sequel to Bumblebee, and that the Beast Wars characters maybe have been on Earth for like a little while, but it's not like they've been on Earth since like prehistoric times.
I'm not sure either way. I mean, they've already done it 5 or 6 times now, where there's been some dormant MacGuffin or character hidden away on Earth. So yeah. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to do it again and say that they have been there since prehistoric times.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, like clearly these characters are more Transformer sized than the actual sizes of the characters were in Beast Wars. In Beast Wars, they were the size of the creatures they turned into. They were a lot smaller, and when they interact with the Ark, where the G1 Transformers crash landed, they're a lot bigger, like a lot bigger. So, right. But here, like you see a shot of Bumblebee and Cheetor is like 2 or 3 times the size of Bumblebee. So
right.
So that it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to be giant robots in prehistoric times, I guess,
right?
Because they're not the same size.
Right. And so, you mentioned how there is multiple times where they've had some kind of ancient thing on Earth that is like a MacGuffin, and that's pretty much every single Transformers movie except for Bumblebee. So all of the Bay movies have had that, where there's some kind of MacGuffin in our past, in our prehistoric past or our medieval past, whatever. And so Bumblebee's the only one that kind of shakes it up, and I think that we're going back to that though for this one. Like, what's interesting about this movie is that I know they had 2 different scripts at one point, and I feel like they just kind of smashed them together. And I think that one script was a sequel to Bumblebee, and the other script was like, I don't know, like maybe a sequel to the Bay movies, and then like it had Beast Wars characters in it. And I think that, like, I mean, you can kind of correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I feel like we're going to have this sort of X-Men Days of Future Past type scenario here, where like you have the Michael Bay continuity and all those things happened, but then these Beast Wars characters, just like in the Beast Wars cartoon, are like the descendants of the original Transformers. And so they go back in time. But I think what's going to happen here is instead of what happened on the Beast Wars show, these characters. Okay, well, I feel like we should maybe explain some things a little bit if people don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like on the G1, on the Beast Wars show that came out in the 1990s, these characters were like descendants of the original Autobots and Decepticons. And one of them called himself Megatron in honor of the original Megatron. And there's Optimus Primal, who was like in honor of Optimus Prime. And they all go back to prehistoric Earth, and hijinks ensue. But you find out that basically their plan was to go back there, and Megatron eventually tries to change history. I think what's going to happen in this movie, and I'll stop talking in a second too, is that the Predacons are going to go back in time to try to change the past, but they're going to wake up Unicron accidentally, and then Unicron is going to make these Terracons to carry out his missions.
Maybe I'm kind of thinking that we're not going to see Predacons here. I think maybe we'll get a reference to them. Maybe it'll be a flashback where there's some kind of background shot, much like the Bumblebee, the Cybertron scenes in Bumblebee. That's I think the best we're going to get with both Decepticons and Predacons in this movie. I do think that time travel is a very likely possibility. I think it might just be a standard kind of dystopian. Unicron shows up in the future, and we got to go back in time to prevent something. What we're preventing, what the Terracons are there for, or what the Maximals want to prevent, I don't know. I have no ideas. I can't think of any reason why the Terracons will be coming to Earth at this time. And at the same time, I don't know. Like, we 100% know this is a sequel to Bumblebee. Like 100%, no doubt in my mind. It takes place in the 90s. It's got the similar designs for Bumblebee and Prime. Some of the same characters that you saw in those Cybertron flashback scenes. It is not clear to me whether this is also a prequel to the 2007 movie series. Okay. There are a lot of ways where it could sort of connect, much like X-Men. There are a lot of ways where it can connect, but there are a lot of ways where it's very contradicted. In Bumblebee, at the Cybertron scene, we don't see Megatron because, in theory, Megatron was frozen in ice on Earth.
Right.
We in that same scene we see other characters. We see RC, Brawn, Ironhide, Wheeljack, and Ratchet. And, in this movie, we're seeing RC and Wheeljack, but, we're not seeing Ironhide or Ratchet, and we're not seeing Jazz, who are three of the characters from the 2007 movie that they just haven't arrived to Earth yet.
Right.
So it in some ways it connects, and in some ways it's a contradiction. So it really could go either way. And then maybe they can also, if time travel is involved, maybe they can say that, things have changed, so the previous movies don't exist or don't happen anymore.
Right.
I think they're hesitant to do that. I think there are, as mixed as they are to the general population, there are fans of those movies. There are people that grew up with those movies and are excited for this because they grew up on those Transformers movies, I don't think they want to alienate those kind of fans. There's actually a lot of discourse about online about the designs of the characters. Like, people are saying, no, the first Prime one, the 2007 Prime was the best design, and people are saying, no, the Bumblebee movie one was the best one, and some people are kind of saying that this one looks is a little lesser than Bumblebee. And then somebody actually has the nerve to say the Last Night design is the best. I'm like, fuck no. I'm generally accepting most opinions, but I really did not like that design. So but it truly is fine if you do like it. But to me, that's surprising. There are people out there that even prefer that design over the other ones. I can see an argument for someone saying that the 2007 design is better than this one. I disagree, but I could see it. It's your opinion, and sometimes your first entry point is your strongest. Like, for us, it's G1. So to me, that kind of style is more appealing to me.
Right. I mean, the people that prefer the Bay movies to like the G1 cartoons and things like that are probably the same people that like are into the Star Wars prequels versus the original trilogy.
Yeah.
It's like what you just said. It's like it's your entry point into the series.
Yep.
We just happen to have the best entry point of all the series, but
Yeah.
But that brings up an interesting talking point, because they incorporate time travel in a lot of these stories nowadays because it sort of like frees up the potential of like, oh no, we can kind of retell these stories, even though we've sort of reached endpoints with certain characters or certain ideas in the movies already. Like the biggest example besides the X-Men movies is the Star Trek series, where that wasn't like just a clean reboot. It was the idea that like they created this other timeline by having Spock and these Romulans go back in time, and it changed history. So you could have this whole young cast carry out these new adventures that were kind of similar to the original adventures. And I feel like what you said is what's going to happen, where it's going to sort of be like a new starting point for this franchise, because they are planning to make 2 more movies after this too, right?
That is correct. Anthony Ramos signed a 3-picture deal, so there's going to be 2 more here. To me, like we said before, Scourge means Unicron to me. Still, and I do think this is going to culminate in Unicron. That was, and like you said before, the scripts kind of merging together. Bumblebee sequel and potential sequel to The Last Knight. That's where Last Night was going, was towards Unicron. What do they call that? The one that looked like a Quintessa?
Yeah.
Sort of look like a Quintesson. You see her in a human form, played by Gemma Chan, who is, Cersei in Eternals. You see her kind of like a post-credit scene going near this big spike and mentioning he's coming, or might even say Unicron. I don't remember.
I think they do say Unicron even earlier than that in the movie. I think Anthony Hopkins says Unicron at one point.
He might, yes. Yeah.
Right, because so that's one thing that is from Transformers Prime, which is the idea that like our planet is actually Unicron.
Yes, which I don't like. I'd rather Unicron be something else and come to us. I think that's much more exciting than, because with Prime, Unicron's not actually going to show up because he's the Earth, and they're not going to destroy the Earth. And they're not going to destroy the Earth in these movies, so that's why I don't like that idea. I'd rather have him come here or go to Cybertron, just be a threat that's external. So we can actually see him.
Right. I totally agree. So we kind of have like competing theories here. Your theory is that Unicron shows up in the future, which the future of 1994 could just be the time of The Last Knight, which is like kind of around our time, right? Like Unicron wakes up. That it doesn't have to be the far-flung future. It could be that time, like post Last Night, which that kind of makes it feel like X-Men Days of Future Past, because the X-Men Days of Future Past movie, they're not too far ahead of our future, our present day in that future, So yours makes
the original comic. I think it's already passed.
Oh, I'm sure. They're like, 1997. It's gonna be giant robots killing Wolverine. But what do you call it? I think that my version is sort of more convoluted, and so I think your version probably is more likely, because my version is basically that, just like it's the same kind of plot of the Beast Wars cartoon. It's just that the Predacons accidentally wake up Unicron in 1994. That's so I don't know. We'll see. I'm assuming that the Terracons are trying to like unleash Unicron no matter what.
Yeah, maybe there's some MacGuffin on Earth, and then they need to awaken Unicron, or he sent him there, or maybe it's similar to the plot of the '86 movie. It's just like Prime's there, he's got the Matrix. That's the one thing Unicron fears,
Well, okay, that's where it gets a little bit trickier, right? Because if we are saying this is somehow connected to the Bay movies, Prime doesn't have the Matrix until Revenge of the Fallen.
Yes. But again, this very well could be an X-Men scenario where a lot of things are contradicted just in the service of just making a movie.
Yeah. And that's fun. That's the funny thing about the X-Men movies and the Bay Transformers movies, is that they just fucking like contradict themselves already without even time travel.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Yep.
And it's like, you have some of the same creators, you definitely have the same actors working on these movies. Like, why can't it be more consistent,
Yeah.
So are there other things you want to talk about for Rise of the Beasts?
Yeah, no, I guess that's it. We talked about Unicron. We talked about the potential connection to the pre. Yeah, I think we're pretty good here.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that you think that the Predacons are going to be like in a flashback or not really have a presence at all.
I think at best.
Yeah.
At best. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going along with you because I was going to say, like, who might they cast as Predacons and stuff, but we don't have to go down that road.
I mean, to me, if outside of like Peter Cullen and Frank Welker as Prime and Megatron, and maybe Chris Latta as Starscream, original Starscream, there's no more iconic voice in Transformers than David Kaye as Beast Wars Megatron. So if they gonna put Beast Wars Megatron in it, they basically have to cast him. Like they have to.
Yeah, and he does those what do you call it? That thing where it's like you can get the person to do a personalized message for you. What the hell's that called?
Oh, he was cameo.
I'm pretty sure the guy that does the original Megatron from Beast Wars, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm pretty sure he does cameo. Yeah, maybe I'll get that for your birthday, like sometime soon. But it's like fucking the voice of Batman. Kevin Conroy. My brain's just not working today. He used to do cameos too, and I would always think to myself like, oh, we should get him or Jason David Frank, and then it's like they both fucking died. I don't want to say like let's get the Beast Wars guy because it's like Jesus. All right, this is getting fucking morbid. Let's go on to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
We talk about death to a movie that's going to be a lot about death.
It sure is. Rocket Raccoon's definitely dying in this one, isn't he?
Yeah, my money's on it's going to be Rocket. It's going to be more than one. It has to be more than one. I'm pretty sure we're going to see the end of Drax here as well.
Yeah.
Based on Dave Bautista's general comments about this.
Yeah. So it even looks like he is on the verge of dying in this trailer too.
I mean, it almost looks like Star-Lord's on the verge of dying at some point too.
yeah, right.
So they're going to kill Star-Lord. I think that they always mention with this movie that this is the end of this iteration of the Guardians or this team of the Guardians.
Right.
In the comics, generally the Guardians team revolves around Star-Lord or Rocket. But I agree with you here. I think this is definitely the end of Rocket. But at the same time, a lot of these actors have been around for a while now. Maybe you can argue that Mantis, Palm Clementoff, whatever. God, how do you say that? She's a little newer, so maybe she could potentially stick around. But Chris Pratt's been doing this a lot. He's in a lot of other franchises. He may not want to do it anymore. I know Zoe Saldana's got franchise fatigue with Marvel and Avatar and Star Trek. And I know she probably doesn't want to do anything ever again like this.
Right.
Dave Bautista's made it pretty clear that he doesn't think he can keep up the physique for forever or doesn't want to. He wants to wear a shirt, which he clearly has in this movie.
Right.
And the holiday special. So I think he's a prime character to end here. But they are going to need someone around if they want to keep having other Guardians movies, and I think the best answer there is keeping Chris Pratt as Star-Lord around, and Groot, of course.
Okay, well, there's a couple of different ways to look at that. Yeah, Groot makes sense because like Groot himself he can just resurrect himself already, and all that.
They're not going to kill Groot. They already did that. There's 100%. There's zero chance that they're going to kill Groot again.
Okay. So he's safe. But I actually think that Peter Quill could be a potential casualty because Quill has died at least 2 or 3 times in the comics, and Drax has died like 5 or 6 times in the comics at least. They die a lot. Gamora has died.
I mean, it to me it really boils down to is this the end of this iteration of the Guardians, or is this the end of the Guardians?
Right.
Because I think that the team absolutely needs to be anchored by either Star-Lord or Rocket, based on how I've perceived the comics.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to work any other way. Obviously, Adam Warlock's around. I think that they can take that angle as well, but I don't know if Adam Warlock's central team would work necessarily.
Yeah, and it's all in the way that they interpret him, right? Because, like we said this in our holiday special coverage. If you guys want to check that out too, we covered the holiday special last week. Um, this version of the Guardians is extremely uh, influenced by the Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning comics of Guardians of the Galaxy, like that version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But the thing is that like when the Guardians of the Galaxy movie came out in 2014, that sort of shaped the way the characters are in the comics. You know, they kind of were already kind of forming like this, and then the movie came around, and then it's like, oh no, this is the way that Quill is, and this is like Quill was actually very different in the beginning of the Abnett and Lanning run, and actually for the
Yeah.
duration of it. But then
And he was way different back in the 70s too.
right, exactly. And Drax was way different too. So they all have kind of gone on to reflect their movie versions. Now, Adam Warlock is a very different kind of character than like what we see in these movies, and so however they interpret him, that's going to be real interesting. You know, is he going to be like serious or like arrogant? We'll see. You know, is he going to be stoic? Is he going to have some kind of quirk? We'll see. I'm kind of curious. He's played by Will Poulter, who I think is actually a very good actor. I've seen him since he was like a kid. But I totally forgot that he was created by the Sovereign. Like those are those people in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, those gold people.
Yep.
And so the woman who's the leader of the Sovereign, Aisha, played by Elizabeth Debicki, she's going to be back in this movie too.
Yes. And I'm kind of figuring that they're going to go with kind of the arrogant route. That's what they did in the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert, Adam Warlock's in it.
Oh, okay, nice. So all the characters in the game kind of sync up with the way they are in the movies, right?
100%.
Yeah. Because that's one thing I really need to hammer home for you guys if you haven't read the comics is that like the Abnett and Lanning version of the team is structurally the same, but like Star-Lord is very different from the movie version, and then in the comics he became the movie version.
Yeah, he's I don't really know how to describe him prior, but he definitely takes on a everyman schlubby kind of persona since the first movie.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing, and the reason why these movies blew up, and I do think that the whole MCU as a franchise really owes so much to that first movie, the first Guardians movie, and it really comes down to the fan base of this is so much is like just guys like you and me. You know, we're in our 40s now, and we are schlubby guys that love the 80s, love comic books, all that kind of stuff, and the music and like Quill's references. It's just like they're like tapping right into that vein for us. And even in the choice of the music and stuff, they're playing stuff from the 90s in this one. They're playing the fucking
Space Hog in the meantime.
Space Hog in the meantime. And that triggers an emotion for me because I'm like, that's like sort of like early high school for me, maybe end of middle school.
Yeah, in the middle school, and that's to me, that's when I first started getting into music too. I mean, I was never I can't say I'm a Space Hog fan. Like I don't think I know another song other than that one. Like that reminds you of like alternative radio back in the 90s, you know?
K-Rock, right, exactly. And so I know that the footage that we see in the trailer now is different from what they showed in the leaked Comic-Con trailer because that one had the Flaming Lips, that Do You Realize song.
Yeah.
And it had kind of a different tone. We should talk about specific imagery that we see, though, in this trailer. Like, there's this one part where Nebula is carrying Quill, and the Guardians are kind of doing their sort of slow walking, iconic walk that they do in all three movies now. And what's his face? Fucking James Gunn's Sean Gunn. Like, what's his character? Kraglin, right?
Kraglin, yeah.
Yeah, Kraglin doesn't have his shirt on for some reason when they're all walking. It's kind of funny looking. And he's got that mohawk. And Nebula is carrying Quill, and he's got that sort of. It looks like that shot that you see on so many comic book covers. Like the most iconic one is like Superman holding the dead Supergirl. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Yep.
And it's like, well, what the fuck happened there? You know?
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Like, I don't think that again. I go back to they need to keep either Quill or Rocket alive. You know, if they want to have more Guardians movies, I think.
Yeah.
And they're heavily hinting that both of them could be on the chopping block here.
Right. Well, the thing I was talking about before, where it looked like Drax was dying, was they have multiple scenes where they're in what looks like prison uniforms. They look very similar to the uniforms they had in the first Guardians movie, and they're in some kind of structure, which I'm assuming is the high evolutionary structure, because they show the structure, then they show the back of his head, and he is standing in front of a cell that has a girl. Looks like she's running on like a hamster wheel, and I don't know if that girl has any significance. But it looks like that's his structure, and it's got this sort of like, it's just kind of draped with stuff that looks like kind of like brain material. I don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, some kind of weird organic material. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that's like, are those the ruins of Ego after he died, or is this another Celestial, or is it like, I feel like it's another living thing that they are like harvesting, and so I don't know what that is. You have any ideas?
Yeah. So there's a quarantine zone in the Guardians of the Galaxy game, and there's that kind of like weirdish pinkish organic stuff there. I'm wondering if that's just like the remains of a Celestial or something.
Yeah.
And they're harvesting or something like that, and they've kind of cordoned it off. I mean, in the game they cordoned it off, so no one should even be going there. But maybe the evolutionary is using it for experiments of some kind.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that Adam Warlock and the Sovereign, like, people, like, that's like its own thing. You kind of think that like Adam Warlock would be connected to the High Evolutionary, but I feel like it might be like two separate plot points altogether. And maybe the High Evolutionary is trying to do what Ego did, but like do his own version of it. Because in the description, it says that he is trying to make everyone kind of fit his specific vision. And I'm assuming that that animal planet that they land on in the very beginning, I'm assuming that's Rocket's planet, and that the High Evolutionary created all those beings there.
Yeah, and we also see a couple shots of a ferret-looking creature, which I'm assuming is Lila,
right,
from the comics.
Yeah,
I don't think Lila was something. I thought Lila was also a raccoon.
Creature. I think she was a different animal, but I'm not 100% sure.
Maybe I'm wrong there.
Yeah, James Gunn obviously is very much influenced by horror. He's made horror movies. This makes me think of The Island of Dr. Moreau. This stuff. Do you remember that, like the remake?
I don't think I saw the remake actually.
With like Val Kilmer and David Thewlis. Yeah, Marlon Brando. I just watched the original one that had like Bela Lugosi in it, and
nice.
Yeah. And the whole idea behind that is that they sort of like use physical like surgery to make animals into people. And this, it seems like they're doing something very similar. And there's one shot that stands out in particular of like what looks like a bloody scalpel. And like you hear the High Evolutionary say something like, forever into the blue sky, something like that. And like there's this one shot of Quill after that where he either looks like he's like in intense pain or something horrible is happening to another character.
Yeah, that's what I kind of think. Something horrible is happening to another character.
Yeah.
But we also could be, maybe the High Evolutionary is trying to get Quill to use him for his experiments because, in the MCU, Quill is half Celestial. So he has some unique genetic material as well.
Yeah. And there has to be a point why they made Mantis be Quill's sister too, or half sister. So it's like they both could be potential test subjects. So I think there's something there.
And I mean, maybe that sign signals her death, honestly. Because remember I was saying how how they were prominently featuring Drax and Mantis in the special because maybe they had diminished roles, or maybe the diminished roles means deaths.
Right. They do actually show, like, it has the same kind of lighting, and that shot of Quill when he's like in pain or someone's dying. The way the shot is, it's very like focused on his face, and I think that they have a shot like that of Mantis too. So like something's going on,
Yeah.
I think they're all the High Evolutionaries prisoners. At one point, they show Drax and it looks like he's been shot or something. His like orange suit is all blackened on his chest, and Mantis and Gamora are carrying him. So I'm assuming that's like when they're trying to escape, whatever that is.
Yes, I agree there. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say.
Well, that's good because we're kind of reaching the end of our usual hour recording mark. But
Yes.
so you are excited to see this, though?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, this is going to be a heavy movie. I think, just like the last one was, it was one of the most, to me, was one of the most emotionally impactful movies. Was Guardians 2 to me, but in the MCU. So I think that's going to continue that trend. And, we also shouldn't discount the humor in this movie. I think I very particularly laughed at both Drax lines in this trailer that kind of bookend the trailer. He throws the little ball at the little girl really hard and laughs. I laughed out loud at that. I laughed at his lines about, what does he say? Like, I want to kill a bunch of people. I want to kill some people. I want to kill one really sad guy that no one cares about.
Right, stupid guy. Yeah. Yeah,
I got some real laughs out of that. So I think this will be a nice mixture of humor and horribly depressing things.
Yeah.
Right. I have very high expectations for this movie. I'll say that.
Right. And we have high expectations because we loved Peacemaker so much. And that was one of our favorite things to cover on this channel. That's James Gunn's baby. If you guys like me and Brian talking like this, you should go check out those Peacemaker videos too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this movie. Obviously, Guardians 1 and 2 are very high on my Marvel MCU rankings. Out of all 32 fucking movies by this point, 32 movies. This is the 32nd Marvel movie. Yes, that's pretty much it for today's episode. We were supposed to be off, but now we're not. Next week, we're going to come back and talk about Doom Patrol, and then possibly Willow. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm down about Willow. I rewatched the movie and the first 2 episodes of the new show.
Yeah,
it's campy high fantasy sort of. Maybe it's for a younger generation. This new show. I think maybe it's not particularly aimed at people that might have seen it in the theater in the 80s, but I don't think it's bad. I think there's some interesting aspects of it. I think the end of the second half of the second episode kind of adds a lot of mystery and intrigue to it, I think.
Okay.
Even the end of the first episode adds a level, which I kind of saw coming, but let's talk about that later.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I'll throw in a little intriguing thing to you before we leave. There was a Willow sequel book that was co-written by George Lucas, who created Willow. And then do you know who the other writer was?
Oh, is it George R. R. Martin?
No, that's a very good guess, though. It was Chris Claremont.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I don't think that the series is influenced by that book at all, but yeah, that's weird, right?
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. So anyway, so definitely Doom Patrol, very likely Willow next week. Me and Brian will be there. If you guys have not liked and subscribed, now's the time to do so. We appreciate your views and your comments. And we will be back here next week to talk about some more comic book adaptations. See y'all.